In 2016, in the Vratarnica village near the city of Zaječar, a 3-year-old Andjelina Stefanovic was brutally violated and murdered. The public was shocked, as this was the youngest victim in the series of monstrosities that shook Serbia over the last couple of years. Despite the public being warned constantly about the dangers lurking around the corner, that year, sadly, the horror struck again. On that fatal day, June 9, 2016, Perica Rajkovic and his wife celebrated the first birthday of their daughter, Elena, and everyone from the neighborhood was invited. Among the guests was Dalibor Stefanovic with his family, who brought his niece Andjelina to the party. I followed her to the gate and wished her a nice time. I did her hair, dressed her very nicely, and gave her a little present to give her new friend. She was so happy. The party was going really well, everyone got along, there was a lot of snacks and it was a nice atmosphere. But unfortunately, the atmosphere will soon be shifted and turned into a pure nightmare. At about 9 o'clock, Andjelina's uncle Dalibor went to the nearby shop to purchase a new pack of cigarettes. However, upon his return about 15 minutes later, he realizes that she is not there. When I got back to the party, I asked my wife where is Andjelina, only to get an answer. She was just there 5 minutes ago. After we checked the house, I panicked and got into my car. Dalibor immediately starts looking for his niece on the streets and soon gets to her house. After explaining that she was missing, her mother just collapses on the house floor. They check again at the Stefanovic residence to make sure that she wasn't playing hide and seek, but again, there isn't any sign of her. Dalibor decides to ask kids who were playing on the streets if they saw anything, and he soon gets an answer that she left with Vladica Rajkovic, a brother of Perica. He instantly goes to his house in the hopes of finding her there, but without success. I went to his house, got inside, and since I am very familiar with the place, I checked every corner, every room, but she was just not there. At the same time, the rest of the people intensively searched for little Anja as well. They blocked the whole neighborhood in the 2-mile radius and still could not find her or him for that matter. Right there beside them was Vladica's father, Neighbour. They called him several times on the phone, but there was no answer. And then, on the last try when his father managed to get a hold of him, the only thing he heard was Andjelina's scream. At that moment I realized, when we find her, it will be late. I honestly wanted to vomit, because I refused to believe that was my son. In the total chaos on the street, Dalibor stumbles across Vladica, but without Andjelina. He gets out of the car and screams at him, with constant questions about her whereabouts, but he gets nothing. At that moment, Dalibor pushes Vladica into the car and threatens him that if he doesn't tell him where the little girl is, he's gonna kill him. After a good 10 minutes of pure quietness, Vladica finally says that he left her at a bus station, and soon a whole search party gathers at the same place. But the story about leaving a 3-year-old child alone at a bus station seemed too suspicious to everyone. When we asked him about where she went, he was totally quiet. At that time, we all wanted to beat him, to torture him, in order to extract the real information. Then he changed his story that he carried the little girl on his shoulders when she fell and injured her head. The police soon arrived at the scene and separated the angry mob from the suspect. They start asking questions about how the people are certain Vladica is the guy to blame, but soon realized there was nobody else beside him. Vladica was immediately cuffed and taken to the station where the investigation started. With the help of neighbors, police organizes the search party for Andjelina, whom Vladica took from the party about 3 hours prior. However, the locals were not suspicious of him only because of this disappearance. About 20 days earlier, Dragana Stankovic, who was allegedly in a relationship with Vladica, went missing. I alarmed the police and went to report the missing the very next day. According to some information, they lived together after Dragana paid some debts on his behalf and had an agreement that he should repay her in 2 years. When she went missing, everybody suspected Vladica because he was the one who had a clear motive. He was taken into hearing and even passed a polygraph test. However, what caused the suspicion even after that? It was what one local woman witnessed one day early in the dawn. He was passing by my house at 5 a.m. and he was very nervous. He soon stopped and looked over at the bridge for about 5 minutes. I just knew something was off. But that was just not enough, and he was soon released from the custody, just 2 days prior to Andjelina's kidnapping. At the bus station, an angry mob that was ready to torture Vladica just a few moments earlier now begins a search with the help of the police. They find wet clothes in his house, so the whole search quickly reroutes to the nearby Timok River. Everybody went into full mode. Many people went straight into the river in the middle of the night, but she was still nowhere to be found. The search was going on all night, but without success. In the meantime, police interrogate the suspect and then out of nowhere get a clear answer. I killed her. Family and friends were called into station to give statements, still not knowing about Vladica's confession. The police get reinforcements and launch a full-scale search, and soon, on a small isolated road behind the river, they found little Andjelina. And they are shocked by the scene. She's still giving the signs of life, but she's totally mutilated. She has wounds all over her body, bruises on her arms and legs, and one big dent on her head. Back at the station, police separates her uncle Dalibor and the father Nebojša and tell them the grim news, after which the father drops the bomb. If he is capable of doing this, maybe he killed Dragana as well. And on that same day, Andjelina couldn't survive the deadly inflicted wounds. 2 days later, she was buried in a local cemetery. The very next day, a new bomb was dropped. The suspicion of Vladica's father became a reality, as he confessed to murdering Dragana Stankovic as well, giving the full details of the crime. He killed Dragana with a hammer, rolled her up in sheets, and drove her to the Timok River, where he tossed the body. The police retrieved her phone in his tractor, and he also led them directly to the crime scene. For the second time in that many days, the quiet village was rolled in black. Dragana was buried in the local cemetery as well, and with that, another search for a killer was finally over, which just confirmed what the expert always warned about. The danger is always present, and very often from the likes of people you know.